Roundtable here in the Garden City, and here in the studio I have two very elegant persons. Well, in the media everybody's a gentleman, two gentlemen, but one actually is a lady. How my entertainment diva, I'm talking about Laura Johnson. Let me give you chop knuckles since you're not going to give. Laura Johnson is a journalist, and indeed has revealed the 74 standing committees of the 10th Senate, of which 48 are senators on the platform of the ruling All Progressive Congress, and 18 to the opposition party, the People's Democratic Party. That's the main opposition, while 4 slots have been allocated to the members of the Labour Party. The Social Democratic Party has 2 chairmanship slots. The All Progressive Grand Alliance and the Young People's Party have both 1, and the New Nigeria People's Party has none. Responding to the release of the chairmanship slots, Senator Shiako Anthony, PDP Gombe State, said the PDP senators are yet to analyze the situation. Shiako, who got the vice chairmanship position of Senate Committee on Diaspora, an NGO, another lawmaker who didn't want to be mentioned, remained anonymous, respectively, stated that it was too early to comment on whether the committee's composition was lopsided and that the situation was still under observation. Well, you saw that the committees over time. There have been this narrative about Jewish committees to be or not to be, and I began to wonder, what is Jewish about any committee? All committees are there for oversight functions. So, what's your take about?
Well, first of all, they are going gradually coming to work. The Senate has constituted its committees. And out of the 105 senators, the APC is in majority, and I'm very sure that there must be more than the number of people allotted that some committee are better or richer.
Yeah.
How do you call it?
Juicy.
I think so. Are they not all impacting on all those things? All those committees are part of ministries, departments, and agencies.
The oversight, yes.
That will impact.
To favor me. So what would you do if the persons who are supposed to hold you accountable, they are beating the drum?
Yes, oversight function is, akin to presidential system of government. It was also there in the parliamentary system, where we had shadow ministers. Shadow ministers kind of fell behind the cabinet ministers to find fault, to check them, and all that. It is the hallmark of the principle of separation of powers, is it not? Now, when Nigerians begin to undermine that fundamental objective, I know that we are not supposed to have a watertight separation of powers. We are supposed to have some kind of fluid, yes, but it shouldn't be watertight. There should be some level of dynamism, because the presidential system has some element system.
Let me share the experience I had with a committee.
Okay.
When I was in
NDDC.
active practicing journalism. That morning we were invited to go to oil-free zone.
Okay.
At One, that a house committee
But you should have syndicated that story, because that's why that's why the press is there.
So I was very surprised, flabbergasted. Another one was, there was no presidential advisor on empowerment, and one professor.
Okay.
Those days during Obasanjo regime. Yes.
He does a program on TV.
Yes. Now this committee, his committee on empowerment, also came and told him, look, that this money must not be returned to the federal government. This is how you do it. But unfortunately for them, between that time, he was told to return the money to the...
Well, let them enjoy their juicy ministry. As those who didn't get juicy committee, those who didn't get, some of them at least with vice chairman of committees.
The other side, very, very sad. 2016 or 2015, early 2015, there was this advertisement for technical aid corps.
Yeah. And so there's a Senate committee on that.
Yes. People applied.
Yes.
And we were asked to, the man who succeeded him started afresh.
Yes. All right. I think
those who succeeded are those senators'
yes,
nominees.
I think there's something legitimate about what committee members do. They lobby. Lobbying is a legitimate practice in democratic principles.
But not to offend people.
But not to offend people. The committees can lobby the various ministries and MDAs to favor some of their own people. That is allowed. But when it becomes some level of corruption, that is where you entice people and you encourage them to practice one corrupt practice or the other, then that is very wrong.
That's where the word juicy comes from.
Juicy comes from, yeah.
But you see, when you use that word lobby, it should not be used wrongly.
Yeah.
You lobby for policy.
You lobby for policy and you lobby for favor too.
See,
not only favor.
See, when you look for favor, like you are meeting somebody to award contract, that is no lobby. That's no lobby.
Can't you lobby for contracts?
No.
Well, lobby is, you're a PR person.
Yes.
We try to differentiate lobbying from corruption.
Yes.
And it's a very big concept.
Thin line. Yes, so there's a thin line between two of them.
Yeah, between them. Okay, let's look at the next story. ECOWAS plans new sanctions on Burkina Faso, Mali, and UN talks failed. Economic Community of West African States has imposed weightier financial sanctions on the Niger junta and entities supporting them, including the governments of Mali, Burkina Faso. The development came after a diplomatic mission by the African Union, ECOWAS, United Nations, and the United States in order to resolve the political impasse in Niger failed, as the military junta has refused to give the delegations an audience. The military leaders also snubbed the acting U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, Victoria Nuland, and denied her access to the coup leader, General Abdul Rahman Chani, and the overthrown President, Mohamed Bazoum, who is being held in the presidential palace. Presidential spokesman Ajuri Ngelale had the entities involving the military junta. The joint AU, ECOWAS, and UN delegation planned a trip to Niamey to negotiate with the junta ahead of the ECOWAS summit, but the military officers have had the permission to enter Niger, had no permission to enter Niger, according to a letter that is circulating on social media, whose authenticity has the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has strongly promoted mediation efforts of ECOWAS, while US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has told the French radio station that diplomacy is the best way to resolve the situation. Yes, diplomacy is the best way to resolve the situation. Now, everything about mediation from the superpowers, from the multinational organizations, then that's the high point of that story. Seem to have.
I think that was like 2 hours ago, and from those of them in the upper side of the north who actually share this boundary with Niger, and you hear them say, "Why? We have been intermarrying with these people. We have been living well with these people. Why would you call for this invasion? Why would you call?" So now the scare is there, the fear is there, and if you would agree, of course, the best way to all of this thing is
diplomatic.
Exactly, because who would it favor anyways? It wouldn't favor us. We are sharing very thin boundaries with these people. That's if we decide to engage in this military banter. So who exactly?
ECOWAS is talking about diplomatic solution. Now, looking at the matter, of course, we cannot negotiate with rebels, but with the resignation, whether forceful or not, of the Nigerian president, what do you think will happen to the entire ECOWAS sanction and threat?
Well,
would there be a reverse gear?
Well,
that is the question.
Yes. First of all, I am very, very surprised at Nigerians.
Okay.
Nigerians are
we have had porous borders in the north
because they've been benefiting. I can assure you that about 50% of the wealth of Nigeria is in Niger. All these people that steal from this country,
and there are those border people talking about marriage and all that.
And these are the people that also influenced the last administration to build
refinery,
to build a railway from Maradi down to Nigeria, where we have places in Nigeria that are yearning for it. However, let me say that the Nigerian debacle has made me to interrogate this popular statement that the best military government is worse than the worst democratic. Please, that has to be interrogated. They build LNG, LMA Petrochemical, Ajokuta,
now, let me
and all that.
Let me cut it short. What we are talking about, you're a lawyer and you're a journalist. We're talking about promotion of rule of law, promotion of human liberty, because military dictatorship is authoritarian, it's autocratic, and banishes rule of law, it banishes human freedom, it banishes our fundamental human rights. In whatever ramification you look at it, it is just it's like taking care of your slave, buy him clothes and give him everything he needs. That's what the military regime looks like. In the recess of the world, Africans are expected, Nigerians are expected to grow their democracy. We're expected to grow. Even in America today, the American presidential system, America being the greatest democratic country in the world, it still has some black spots. So I think that the principle behind ECOWAS agitation, the principle behind the agitation of well-meaning Nigerians who are Democrats, like Tinubu for example, is that we should grow our democracy. I think that the problem is that we have not been able to grow our democracy. Even when the military was around, our own kind of military was not the kind of Gaddafi military. That's the problem we have. Because the Nigerian factor will always be there. So it's better to have a democracy where you have your say. I have my say. You have yours, and everyone has his say. But the problem is that we do not know how to practice democracy, not even the military. Because even during
this, how long do you want to do this? How long do you think you can bring this peace back? How long do you think you can bring trust back to the system? What do you think you can do? We are giving you 2 years to do this. We are giving you 4 years to do this, and then let's work towards that. That should be the position of ECOWAS.
Well, thank you very much. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, this is an interesting narrative. We will talk about. When we come back, we'll look at more issues. There are issues dealing with the economy and what have you. Don't get away. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. It is still Atlantic Television Roundtable. You are in the Garden City, and my discussants are still here. My name still remains Bond. Okay, it hasn't changed. You're welcome back. Now let's look at some of the stories. President Bola Tinubu has set a 30-day tax reform target while inaugurating the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, chaired by Taiwo Oyedele in Abuja. Orire Abaje, a 400-level economics student of University of Ibadan, has been appointed as member of the committee by the president. I didn't understand that. The president has declared the aim of the committee to transform the tax system to support maintainable development while attaining a minimum of 18% tax to GDP ratio within the next 3 years. The committee is expected to provide a schedule of quick reforms that can be executed within 30 days. These reforms should be recommended within 6 months, and full implementation will take place within 1 calendar year in 3 main areas: fiscal governance, tax reforms, and growth facilitation. The special advisor to the president on revenue, Zacchaeus Adedeji, has described the committee 12 talented members drawn from the public, private, and several sectors, well, including a student, a 400 level student. I really don't understand. It's intriguing and interesting. But let's look at this. The presidential tax reforms appears to be very interesting. Today there's an update to these reforms. Apart from this committee, I heard stories about every tax now going to FIRS. Customs will no longer collect tax. But is that constitutional? You know the constitutional rule of customs.
Well,
so when you say they shouldn't collect tax, FIRS should collect all the tax. Does it make sense?
Well, that is still the problem. You see, one has been privileged to attend international conferences and workshops on tax system in Nigeria, and you find out that Nigeria are consumed in Rivers State. I don't understand. It is supposed to be the duty of Rivers State government to collect the VAT on the services rendered on beer in Rivers State. But when Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) collect these taxes, meanwhile the people in Kano will tell you they are Muslim, they don't drink beer.
They benefit from it.
They even go to break the bottles and close down areas, collect the benefit from it. It is injustice.
So that is what Aikwama called the Chichidodo principle, metaphor. Chichidodo is a bird that doesn't eat shit but eats maggot.
So that kind of thing.
That Chichidodo metaphor.
You see, that is so. What kind of committee do we need for this? It's a simple thing. Please, that is a state government owned thing.
Yeah, was the matter one in court. The Lagos State government and Rivers State government went to court over that issue.
They say let us discuss out of court. Let us is a political solution. Now, you know, we don't need a presidential. This is democracy.
Yeah.
Justice should be done. If you this attempt of over centralizing everything, I even heard that this morning they have National Institute of Sports. What will you not do at the federal level?
Institute of Sports is good. What's wrong with that?
When you have, what are the states doing?
No, Institute of Sports, because
that should not be a National Institute of Sports.
We have national teams,
national museum, national this, national that.
No, I don't buy. No, we argue a lot on this program.
National farm.
I argue a lot.
See, you should decongest the federal level.
I know that the
government should come down.
Yes, I know that the convoluted structure of the presidential system of government should be unbundled.
Yes,
it
should be.
Power should devolve
quickly
to the
local government are redundant.
Yes, power should devolve to the subnationals. I know, but there are certain institutions, because the Super Eagles, for example, is a national team. you have the sports people that represent Nigeria, not Rivers State. When sportsmen represent us at the Olympics and at world tourneys, they represent the nation. So there should be an institute of sports that grow this personalities. So you can give an example.
Wait. When you know there was a time we hadn't any green ego. We used to call it green ego and all that. That time Rangers International represented Nigeria.
No, they didn't.
They did.
It was before.
There was no national district.
It was before the war.
It was teams.
I'm a sports journalist.
Teams we are representing.
Before the war.
Leave.
Yeah, leave it. We argue a lot on this program.
Yes.
Now, before the war, we had the Red Devils representing Nigeria. It happened before the Civil War. But thereafter,
even after.
Now let's look at this story. It's interesting. Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has suspended its planned nationwide daily protest after having a closed-door meeting with the Senate President. Majority and minority leaders, President of NAD, Emeka Oji, has disclosed this, stating that there will be a review in the next 72 hours. The doctors embarked on an indefinite industrial action on July 26, resulting in the failure of government to meet their demands. The decision for the protest was followed by the order of the federal government to the chief medical directors and medical directors of federal tertiary hospitals to commence the no work, no pay policy against the striking doctors. What is happening to strike?
To strike?
Yes. Resident doctors.
Yes, and then you see their pictures and they're smiling with the.
They didn't go on protest.
You see pictures of them smiling with the Senate president. You see the pictures.
They're happy to be there.
Yes. And you know, and we are like, okay, you're smiling today. Tomorrow, what's going to happen? You're smiling. You've posted this thing. Tomorrow, what's going to happen? Because then again, unless you're not in Nigeria, should you not know that everyone wants to japa? Everyone. That's every person in the medical line wants to japa. And then you hear them saying that they're trying to cry out so that you can have your people stay. There are about over 250 million Nigerians and we need more doctors. Now, have these issues been resolved or not? I was hoping it's for a situation where they release a statement and say, okay, this has been resolved, this has not been resolved, this is how far we've gone. Instead of just saying, you know, we are taking a pause on this, and you see pictures of them flying and smiling. And is that why you went to this? Where you went to have that roundtable talk in the first?
If those who are even here in London will tell you that racial discrimination is very high. Racial discrimination. Some will tell you that from that Nigeria, no, I don't want him to treat me. If the problem is getting too high, then I will